All right, today we're going to take a trip, a journey into the crisp, autumn-colored woods of what I think is one of the most enchanting and honestly unsettling animated series ever made, Over the Garden Wall. You know, it's this kind of fairy tale that feels like it's been around forever, but is also completely new. So let's dive in and figure out what makes this show so incredibly special.
I mean, right from the jump, the show just nails the tone. That opening line, it's perfect. This isn't just some random forest, right? It's the unknown. It's a place that's literally outside of time, just full of these forgotten stories. And just that one quote, it tells you everything you need to know. We are in for a classic, but super mysterious adventure.
And really, that's the big question the whole series is built around, isn't it? The unknown. I mean, you've got your talking birds, your towns made of pumpkins, these shadowy beasts lurking around, but none of it, absolutely none of it, acts the way you think it should. It's like you've fallen into a dream that's slowly, and kind of wonderfully, twisting into a nightmare.
So who's leading us through all this? Well, it's these two half-brothers, and they are polar opposites. First up, you've got Wirt. He's the worrier, the anxious older brother who's always lost in his own head, writing poetry and just overthinking everything. And then you've got Greg. He's the wanderer. This kid is just a ball of pure, unfiltered optimism. He's got a pet frog he named, and he leaves a trail of candy, like literally everywhere he goes.
Okay, so here we go. Our two heroes are lost in the woods, and their weird adventure kicks off right away. And their very first encounter, it's with a character who's going to cast this long, dark shadow over their whole journey. This really sets the stage for everything.
Wow, what a welcome, right? So you stumble upon this guy, the woodsman. He's this grim, kinda scary figure. And all he's doing is just chopping away at these really strange-looking trees. And that warning he gives them, that's our first big clue that being lost out here has nothing to do with a map. It's about something way, way deeper.
And this is where that feeling of dread really comes from. The woodsman is the one who tells us about the main baddie, the beast. But what's so brilliant is how they talk about him. He's not just some monster hiding in the dark. No, he's a legend, this mournful singer who hunts for lost souls. It's so much creepier that way.
So what's the woodsman's deal? Well, he's got this really strange and frankly grim purpose. He says everyone has a torch to burn, and his job is to keep this mysterious dark lantern lit. And how does he do it? By grinding up these edelwood trees to make oil. Right away, you're suspicious, right? Like, what on earth is in that lantern?
So, you know that candy trail Greg leaves everywhere? Well, it ends up leading this giant wolf creature right to the woodsman's mill, and it gets completely wrecked. And boom, the whole theme of responsibility just gets dropped right on Wirt's shoulders. The woodsman doesn't mince words. He tells Wirt flat out that this is his fault. And that feeling, that burden, becomes a huge, huge part of Wirt's entire journey.
Which brings us to one of my absolute favorite things about this show. The unknown isn't just trying to be scary. It's wonderfully bizarre. It takes all these classic fairy tale tropes and just flips them completely upside down. It's always playing with what you expect from a story like this.
And the first big example of this? The town of Pottsfield. So Wirt and Greg, they wander into this place, and it looks like some kind of harvest festival, but everyone there is a silent person with a pumpkin for a head. I mean, come on, it has all the ingredients for a full-on folk horror nightmare.
And then you meet the leader, Enoch, this giant pumpkin creature. And he delivers this super ominous line. He declares the boys guilty of trespassing and, disturbing the peace. And at that moment, you're just bracing for the absolute worst. The whole setup is pure classic horror.
But then comes the punchline, and it is just brilliantly absurd. Their punishment? A few hours of manual labor, a little yard work. Turns out the pumpkin people are just a bunch of happy skeletons wearing gourds on their heads, and they just needed a hand digging up their friends for the harvest party. It's the perfect example of the show's dark, but really playful sense of humor.
And this just keeps happening. It's a pattern. Those terrifying skeletons in Pottsfield, yeah, they're just having a party. That wild gorilla causing chaos at a school, turns out it's just some poor guy named Jimmy stuck in a suit. Again and again, the show reminds you that here, in the unknown, things are never, ever as bad as they look at first glance.
But okay, let's be clear, the show isn't just a bunch of weird, quirky little stories. Underneath all that fun and subversion, there's a really dark, central mystery. What is the deal with the beast? And what is up with that dark lantern the woodsman is always carrying?
So later on, the boys end up in a tavern, and Wirt hears the local folklore. The tavern keeper actually sings this whole song about the beast, and the song claims that the beast is the one who carries a dark lantern, and that he uses the oil from lost souls to keep it lit. And you can just see this dangerous little seed of an idea get planted in Wirt's head.
And this right here, this is the absolute core, the tragic misunderstanding of the whole story. On one hand, you have the rumor from the tavern, whoever carries the lantern has to be the beast. But on the other hand, you have what the woodsman himself said, that it's his own personal burden. And Wirt, who's already on edge, decides to believe the scary story.
And this idea, this wrong idea, completely transforms Wirt. The people in the tavern start calling him a pilgrim on some kind of heroic quest, and he just leans into it. He's not the passive, scared kid anymore. Now he has a mission, a purpose. He has to stop the woodsman because he is 100% convinced that he's the beast.
So while Wirt is off building this whole story around the completely wrong villain, the boys have picked up a guide, and, well, she is way more complicated than she lets on. We gotta talk about Beatrice, the talking bluebird.
So, Beatrice makes this promise. She says she'll lead Wirt and Greg to this person called Adelaide, the good woman of the woods, who can supposedly get them home. But here's the thing. She's hiding this really desperate secret. She made a horrible mistake, threw a rock at a bluebird, and it got her and her entire family cursed, turned into birds. And she is desperate to do anything to fix it.
And that desperation leads her down a pretty dark path. She promised to help them, yeah, but the deal she struck with Adelaide has this terrible price tag. Adelaide wants a child servant. So Beatrice is completely torn, between her guilt and her desperation to save her family. And in the end, she keeps the price a secret. She knowingly leads the brothers right into a trap and just shatters their trust.
So let's take a step back. You've got the enemy who's not really an enemy, the guide who just betrayed them, and the actual beast still looming out there. All these pieces are crashing together, and it leaves the brothers in the worst spot they've been in yet.
I mean, just try to put yourself in Wirt's shoes for a second. He's just been betrayed by Beatrice, who is really the only person he was starting to actually trust, and he's totally convinced that the only other adult around, the woodsman, is the big bad guy he has to defeat. So what does that mean? He's completely and utterly alone. He's more lost now than he ever was.
And this all circles right back to that powerful line from the woodsman, way back at the beginning. When he first yelled at Wirt, it was just about taking responsibility for his brother. But now, that line has a whole new meaning. Wirt has taken on this huge burden of being a hero, but the whole thing is built on a complete misunderstanding, on a lie.
And that's really where the story leaves us, with this big, lingering question. You see Wirt facing the dark woods with no guide and no real enemy to fight, and it makes you wonder, what does it actually mean to be lost? Is it just about not knowing your location on a map? Or is it something deeper, like not knowing who to trust, what to believe, or maybe even not knowing who you are anymore?